So Rock came here and saying, you guys can see in the on the left side talking about everyone's giving it a 10 out of 10. I was kind of expecting that, but really, as you guys can see, the title of the video is that is my thoughts from what little I've played in the demo. I'll give a full thoughts review once the game is actually out and I get to play it. That might be soon or not. I don't really have really high expectations. I mean, there's a video I have titled so in my channel talking about why Resident Evil 4 won't meet expectations. But anyways, I want to talk about from what little I did play. I mean, I've already established in that other video that I do like the reimaginings. They're pretty okay, right? I feel like as a Resident Evil fan, they definitely aren't up to snuff. You know, they just something like the campy feel or this and that. Like I said, I'll get into more thoughts once I get it all together and whatnot. But anyways, one thing I definitely want to say for sure is that I think the RE engine is probably one of the best looking hands down in here next to Street Fighter 6 and X Primordial. I think Exo Primal is the best looking RE engine game, hands down. It's so clean. But I think the button scheme so far that they have perfectly fine, no real problem. Anything. Um, I think Leon looks great. I think Leon's probably the best looking character we've had on RE engine so far, next to again Street Fighter characters. Like Ryu looks god tier. But first thing I want to note is like the environments. Like I feel like they actually the environments. I think that they did a pretty good job of the R reimaginings to the T. But I think RE2 had the best ones, hands down. It really felt like the original police station, whereas 4 feels the most different out of all of them, minus 3 to a degree. But it does feel faithful. It really is a reimagining, but it truly does feel faithful. And I think that's something the reimaginings do a good job. They really do reimagine the maps, and they're pretty faithful. My only problem with the map design is because they're trying to push the engine so hard. The maps feel a bit too condensed, too, too. What's it? The other word? They're too claustrophobic, and not in a good way. It feels like Resident Evil 4 was never in design. Like the core philosophy of Resident Evil 4 specifically was never designed for that claustrophobic feel. That's like the OG. Like RE1 is the most claustrophobic out of all the Resident Evils. It's not even a contest. 2 and 3 have it to a degree, but 1 was peak claustrophobia. And even in the reimaginings, you can feel it, but there was always some wiggle room in those two. 3, I feel like had less wiggle room than 2, oddly enough. But it also had that wannabe parry mechanic, so that was a whole negligible. But yeah, it almost feels like some of the maps like are a bit too small. Like when you're getting your way, like when you first start, it's okay, but then when you get into the cabin, it's like, oh, this feels a bit small, you know. Like and it makes it in the cabin it's small because even in the actual game, like that segment was super short in the OG, and then in the demo that got stretched the hell out. So that's another thing I want to mention. I feel like the game might be stretched out more than it will actually be than the original for no reason. But yeah, like when you're entering the cabin, like it's a huge showcase, but it feels super small, right? And then on your way to the main village, it felt pretty okay. But that one part where you break the barrel with the X, and there's like the tree, that's the core of what my problems are. Is the maps feel like way too small, and there's just too much clutter. I'll make a separate video discussing about like how the more realistic you make a game, the worse it can be for actually conveying things. Because there was a huge drama on Twitter about, oh, why does this barrel have this? Again, that's a whole different video for its own topic. But to me, it's like whatever. I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me that there's giant X's that are yellow. Because honestly, I need that. Because there's just too much crap everywhere. I don't like that. That direction I don't like. It can be sort of. I'm assuming it's at least fairly accurate to certain parts of Spain. I like the rendition of RE4 originally way more. Like that felt like I don't think that village was too remote or too out there. Like the rendition that they had there, and I don't know. Like I'm gonna be honest, like I don't know that much about Spain, but not only artistically and thematically was the village surrounding, the forest better in the original. I think it's again, I could be wrong. Realism is all about, well, let me go get a picture of, Spain, heck, fuck it, and see which one is more accurate. Like, if anything, it gave me a bit of a vibe of kind of like some American forests. Like both of them, they have like, yeah, like see, this is already like, yeah, look at this. So I'm right. It is more realistic. Like that the forest they had in there felt like you get into deep forest, like where no one's been. That's my problem. Like if when you have people who have been villagers, let's say that these were more packed up, the villagers would be cutting it even when they're getting taken over by the plaga. Because how the hell are you supposed to move around with a bunch of branches and shit out the way? But yeah, Spain's forest, like I think they only have like this and what we saw in the RE demo. yeah, they're not too dissimilar from what America actually has. Except America's forests are far more diverse, minus not having rainforest, I believe. But the majority of like American forests have like this kind of vibe going on, and then maybe some green hill zones kind of shit, you know. But yeah, so like, oh, see, like, look at this. This is the kind of crap. So again, not see, it's a laurel forest, but oh, cool. This is actually like perfection. This is like a good in between. I wish they would have gone something like this, but as you notice, like I feel for gameplay reasons, yeah, just okay. This again, were just my initial thoughts. Like boom, see, like a fall forest kind of, and the seasons, right? And then the seasons matter. I think the original forest setting for RE4 was much better. Like objectively and opinion in my opinion, because you know you don't gotta mark boxes yellow and like, oh, here's a box that sticks out, you know, and then you have this and then a bunch of crap everywhere on top. It's like, dude, you can't blame anyone if you put a box here and they don't see it. Then you put a bunch of wood everywhere else. Yeah, dude, no, no. I mean, heck, people had a problem in RE5 in Africa. That made sense because the setting was Africa. That's fair, but you know. And so that's enough with the visuals, right? And then lastly, too, I want to say the village feels a lot smaller. Some of the changes are kind of funny, and I like them. I don't have any beef with one of the changes. I'd say it's 75% of what the original is. So minus, so if you play like I play it, and it's like, okay, cool, the same patterns and stuff are still basically there, right? But it definitely felt, again, also just a bit smaller. You know, I felt a bit like restricted. In getting to restrictions, a lot of the people seem to like the movement more in the reimagining. I don't. I don't like the movement more. I like it way more in 4. 4 felt way more responsive and snappy. Like, I didn't test the delay. Maybe that could be a reason. I did a recent delay test, but there is 4 frames of delay, 3 to 4, even with the best system. So that could be, oh, just go to PC and play at 120. Fair enough. It will play better. There's no argument there. But I want to put this in the eyes of what the majority of people are playing. The majority of people have played consoles. That's just an actual fact. And you know, my PC ain't good enough to run it at 120 4K. And dude, I'm sorry. Again, different video. The more realistic a game tries to look, the more important it is that the game runs at a higher resolution. And even that's just how I feel too. Maybe I could be wrong, but anyways, getting to the actual core movement of the game. Leon feels like movement wise, he feels great and fluid, like, but like he feels stiff. And here's the reason I want to say. Again, when you start pushing more towards realism, like, good example, ask anyone who plays like COD to go play like Insurgency or Arma, and they're gonna be like, oh, yo, why is my character so stiff? Why is my character so slow? Because that's what it's like being a real actual human being. People like in video games don't move like people in real life. When you start to move in real life, like, you feel responsible, like, oh yeah. But when you're looking on the outside, you realize people, when they move left or right, like say you're doing something and you're moving side, you're like, oh my god, that takes 20 years. That's what Leon feels like. Yeah, is it a semi more accurate representation than 4, where someone just throws a mad 360? They still have that, right? Like the 180 turn. I'm glad they kept that. But when you move left to right, like in 4, it's responsive. He just moves like, you know, almost like a statue in place, right? But it's fine. And there was like limited movement, and that's where people say, like, I think objectively RE4 is technically more stiff than the reimagining, but the reimagining is definitely slower than the original. And that's what I want to say. Like, I feel like if you're a nooblet or like a normie, 4 will feel better to you, right? But if you get better, you like say mid-level, you're like, man, why does Leon feel, you know? And then when you get good at, like in the beginning 4, because you're stuck in that position, that's what it comes down to. Normies will think 4 feels better because of the fact you can move and shoot, right? People just get so used to that, whatever, and they'll say 4 is stiff just because when you aim, you have to stand still and shoot. But when you actually move around, whether it's running speed, snapping, aiming, RE4 is way better. It's just straight up. It's way faster, snappier. Same with the animations. I want to get into the kicks. I think they're well animated. I don't think they're bad. Something I think I'd have to go really into, but I think, again, they just felt better in Resident Evil 4. You know, actually, if anything, this is a video you guys might have seen or not. There's a dude who talks about, why Street Fighter 3 is one of the most greatest animated fighting games of all time. Or the Corey covered the transition from when we went from fighting games to the arcades to 3D and consoles, how they just didn't feel right, even though technically they were animated the same way. It's literally that. Like, it's actually that. Like, because of the push of realism, like, yeah, there's a bit of a wind up, whatever, and it kicks, but it's not over exaggerated, right? I think that maybe the thump is, but like it's just not snappy. Like when you do a kick in RE4, it's like "Hyah!" and you hear that snap, and it's like it's instant, like, and it's super gratifying, you know. And in the reimagining, it's like, you know, it's like okay, you know, I just put my thumbs up, like okay, not bad, not bad, not bad. Same with the shotgun. I will say the sound design for the weapons is a lot better than the second one. I like that Capcom listened because the shotgun felt kind of underwhelming in the reimagining in terms of like sound design, especially in the reimagining for four. That shit sounds good, and the over exaggeration, like for gameplay wise, you could say four is better, but like visually, I gotta give it to them. I gotta give it to them. The shotgun, they did an amazing job with that. And lastly, I think something I want to cover, or two things actually, is speaking of things that I think didn't do that well in the reimagining. Aiming feels like trash. I'm gonna be honest. Aiming just does not feel that good. Maybe I gotta tweak the sensitivity, so that's something I'll fuck with more when I play. I just gotta get used to it. Yeah, aiming in the original feels way better. Just 1000%. I feel like I can actually hit shots. Maybe it has an aim assist. And for those who know me, I fucking hate aim assist. I am not a fan. I'd rather that the developer spend more time tweaking the controls, like the analogs, to have a very specific mind. And that's in four. There's like three different speeds, like normal, slow, and fast. And I tend to go with normal, and then if I got used to it, I go fast, right? Whereas, you know, now there's like a fuck ton of sensitivities, and trying to find the right one is just a pain in the fucking ass. You know, and I think it matters more for competitive shooters, but when you're playing a game it's, you know, linear, or there's certain paths, I think it's easier to design a game like, okay, here's the normal average speed of what the reticle's gonna be. Let's have our game designed around that. That makes a fuck ton more sense for like a single player game. And why I think like a normal speed is fine. Like say when you'd say sensitivity, it's like if that sensitivity would be around 4 to 6 for like you COD players, right? And then high would be like 6 to 8, you know. And then of course it could be like a very fast, which would be like that crackhead setting that motherfuckers be putting like at 9 to 12. I don't know how y'all motherfuckers be playing on that shit, bro. I'm like, ugh. Like I even touch the analog, that fucking thing's good. But hey, some people, hey, to each their own. I'm always happy that there are options, right? And it's good to have a finite one. But I think finite options do not matter in a game like a single player game. They just don't. Multiplayer, 100%. There is no argument there. But for a single player game, nah. In my opinion, the less options someone has to deal with, the better. More options make more sense in a competitive setting, not in a casual setting, you know. But yeah, I think the aim's kind of bad. Like I said, maybe I just got to get used to it and change the sensitivity to be perfect. But I can still blame the game for that because, like, come on, dude, this ain't COD. Miss me with that shit. And lastly, I want to say the enemies. The reimaginings again next to the map design, they always do a great job with the zombies. Granted, the zombie design has always been immaculate for RE, and well, -7 in Village, but we'll ignore those. Um, but yeah, they did a faithful recreation, and what they did add was, I think they did great, not bad. The only thing I do have a bit of beef with is I feel like some of the hits, like again compared to the original, it's not as consistent. Like it doesn't feel as reliable as the OG. Like whenever you saw someone flinch, you like, you know, especially like a hard flinch, oh, you knew you could go for a melee. Like, or here's an example. Oh, did I shoot the knee? Did I? Oh, I don't know about the head, but I didn't get in it. Like, oh, did I shoot the knee, the leg? You see them, oh, hunch over. Like, you know, like if you shot their leg or the knee and you saw them hunch over hard, you're like, oh, I can go for a melee. In four, it's hard. Like it feels like when you shoot the knee or the leg, they'll flinch. It's either a flinch or a full fall, and you can only do the melee for a full fall. But they look so similar that you can't tell. So you can't do it on reaction, and then you can't reliably. Oh, I hit him in the knee. I would do Resident Evil 4 stuff. I would go and hit in the knee, then I would run up for a melee, and then I realize, oh, that wasn't a clean hit. So that's something that's really annoying. So that might be just me as a Resident Evil 4. I feel like it's a nice touch to detail, but so we'll find out full game if it's really my Resident Evil 4 instincts kicking in, or if it's just not very good animation design that doesn't make it consistent when you try to actually hit them for certain times. And I think maybe I've hit in the head a couple times and they didn't reliably, like it doesn't feel consistent, and the animation doesn't make it easy to actually react to. Again, we'll see when the full game comes on. I do it for about 6 hours straight if I adapt. And that would be my overall thoughts. I don't think too much of it will change. Some of it, like I said, with the sensitivity, getting used to it. But I think, like I said, I'll like the game. I think I'm gonna give it probably an 8 out of 10. That's what I'm gonna expect. An 8 out of 10 for sure. You know. And then I think, and the thing is, I want to look at it as unbiasedly. I mean, here's the thing: I'll have two different reviews. I want to look at it as a Resident Evil fan and objectively as possible. You know, trying not my best to compare it to the original. Or at that point, it's like, oh, which one do I prefer, is the original or the reimagining? Let's be honest, it's probably going to be the original. And then It's just a very deep conversation, and if I'm gonna be honest, I don't think anyone can really touch it. Cause I'm gonna keep it real, dude. There's like I feel like the current state of Resident Evil and Resident Evil content creators is immaculately weak. Like some of them have pretty good takes, this, that, whatever, but like that's a different conversation altogether. But as someone who grew up and is the person they are today because of Resident Evil 4 too, it's like, and besides, like I'm actually looking at this, like I said, I can look at this game objectively and from my own take, right? So like I like if you guys noticed this whole time I was talking about, I compared it to Resident Evil 4 like maybe 2 times, right? So there's that. But yeah, those are just my initial thoughts. These are just initial thoughts. This isn't the full review. Hopefully, when I bring up these same points, I'll say, oh, go check out this for my full thoughts and what is it now, so I don't make these videos too long. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Resident Evil 4 reimagining demo. And yeah, just wait for more Resident Evil content in the future. Thanks for watching.